Hello and welcome to episode number 130 of the Board Game Barrage podcast. This is going to be less relevant by the time this episode airs, but it is the 4th of July, the birth of our great American nation. So who better to host the episode than the all-American Orange Tank?
Nealon has been counting down the days to the 4th of July.
Yeah, exactly. I have an advent calendar just for this. How are you guys doing? Mark, what's up?
Not much. There are bombs bursting in the air behind me as we speak.
There are a lot of bombs bursting. We've been celebrating the 4th of July by playing The Boss. We were supposed to play a bunch of party games, but we only got to play one because Nealon took so long to think.
How dare you? That's not even a little bit true.
Okay, my thinking time was the longest. But still, the game took a long time.
Forgetting about Bye Felicia?
Oh, yeah. We did play
well.
Bye Felicia.
The less said about that, the better.
I don't think it was
true.
terrible, but it certainly wasn't great.
It's a no for Mark and I.
Yeah.
Those are the voices of the green, blue, and red tank.
Of the losers in Bye Felicia.
Order of coolness.
It is board game award season in some ways. We have a bunch of board game awards to talk about this episode. We've got Spiel the Jahres nominees, we've got Dice Tower Awards, we've got Golden Geeks that we've not yet covered. So that's going to be what we're going to be talking about later in the show. We're going to give you our quick hit impressions on some of the winners and nominees and whether they deserved it or not. Because as the arbiters of the board game community, it is ultimately up to us. But before we get there, we're going to be talking about the games that we've been playing. Kellen, what have you been playing?
I had the opportunity on Friday night to play Battlestar Galactica.
You know that sound I'm trying to make? The Cylon sound?
Uh-huh.
The sound of the Cylon ships. What do they called? What are the
just
Cylon
a clip
ships?
from the show? You just played?
Kellen, what are the Cylon ships called?
I mean, there's different ones. Base Stars, Raiders,
Maybe
Heavy
I'm thinking of
Raiders,
Raiders. There's a specific one that makes a specific
Centurions,
sound.
but those are the robots themselves.
I know. I'm thinking maybe it's Raiders.
On Friday, I had the opportunity to play Battlestar Galactica on Tabletop Simulator with Brandon from our Discord community, who also runs a Twitch and YouTube channel called Optimal Play. What I did not realize was that he was actually going to be broadcasting it live on Twitch, so I had to sort of get into my performative element very quickly, Friday at 8 p.m. So I actually think you could probably watch a VOD of this if you wanted to, but it is over 4 hours long, so your mileage may vary on watching that. But the good news for me with this round of Battlestar Galactica was that we got to play with many of the expansion materials that I've never had a chance to play. This game is long out of print. It is very expensive, and I have the base game, but never ventured into the expansions like Caprica and Daybreak, and I think there's one other one that I don't know the name of. And playing with veterans of the game, they actually will choose and pick which parts of each expansion to use to kind of make the experience go better, which I was grateful for. So I got to see things that I had not seen for the first time. Battlestar Galactica is a hidden trader game. It is a long hidden trader game. I got to portray the character Ellen Ty, which was very fun because I went by Kellen Ty. So people were calling me Helen and Kellen back and forth, which I really liked. And Saul Ty, who is married to Ellen Ty, the female that I portrayed, his quotes are on a lot of things. And so, as flavor text, and so I would remind players of things that my husband had said or thought. So I had fun going, this reminds me of when my husband said, and then I would just read flavor text really deadpan to them. And this is how I got myself through the 4 or 5 hour game of Battlestar Galactica. It is a hidden trader game. It runs on a system that I still think is the best in the business, which is that you go through a series of crises. How do you say that, Nealon?
Crises.
And each person is good at different things. Some people are good at leadership. Some people are good at politics. Some people are good at piloting. And a crisis will need certain flavors of different cards. And cards that are not of that flavor will actually count against the skill check. And people are submitting to these tasks anonymously. So what ends up happening is you might go, okay, this task needs yellow to participate. And Ellen Ty is very good at politics. So if Kellen doesn't participate, he might be bad. If Kellen participates, but there's not a lot of yellow cards in the pile, I wonder where those came from. So it gives you a little bit of deduction or a little bit to go on to sort of pin your suspicions on a player or another player. There are also 2 random cards added to that deck, which also further elaborates on the fun of a big red card pops out and you go, only Neelan could put red cards in the game, therefore he's the Cylon, throw him in the brig, let's kill him, but that could just be the random deck that added that to the pile. Battlestar Galactica is really good. I think it is too long and too complicated for what I am looking for in 2020. Thematically, it's amazing. I love the Battlestar Galactica property. I have a prop from the Battlestar Galactica property in my household that I spent way too much on many years ago. I don't know what you'd have to do to this game to make it work for me in 2020. You'd probably have to cut it in half. I think you can see its effect on the industry. You can look at the thing outpost at whatever 31 blah blah blah, and that lifts the system almost directly out of it and makes it not as good.
I was just going to say, Dead of Winter is actually a much closer analogy even to the same system. So it's definitely the best part of that game that is worth preserving if you're going to try to do something similar.
There is just a little bit too much going on, in my opinion. And you want to have enough going on that the bad players and the good players have a variety of decisions to do, because if a good player only has one option, then if they don't do that, they're the bad player. Our game went decently enough. We'll include a link to that in our episode notes. There are some good moments in the game where, you can look at one of a player's loyalty cards, and everyone will have 2 loyalty cards at a certain part. So if one of those is you're a Cylon card, you're a bad player. And so those moments of trust where another player looks at someone else's card, and then you basically have to go 50-50 because one of them says, that player is a Cylon, and the other one says, no, I'm not, sir. And suddenly there's that tension point. And so this has that. You can get a distilled version of this in various flavors of the Resistance, even with the expansions, and the plot thickens, does some similar type stuff. So yeah, if that sounds fun, we'll put a link to that Battlestar Galactica VOD in the description. I had a good time, even though it's too long, and it does make me wonder about keeping the base game in my collection, even though I adore Battlestar Galactica and spent a long time taking Christina through the series a couple of years ago.
How'd you feel about playing it online versus in person? How do they stack up?
I think it added probably at least a half hour to the game,
right?
But it did cut down on a lot of annoying, everyone's contributing cards to these skill checks. There's 20 cards there, and you can push a button, and it puts them all in their 7 discard piles, and it just sorts them.
Yeah.
So there are little bits of it that it makes better. We were also not on video, which I think is a huge, important part of the social deduction experience, for me especially. So it didn't feel as tense. When I didn't want to present information, I would just go on mute. You know what I mean? Like, I mute my microphone, and then suddenly no one's getting anything out of Kellen. I mean, not that anyone could, because I'm the best Shadow 2020 and 2019.
I'm not sure if the record shows that. So I've been playing Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. This is the 2-player version of Agricola by Z-Man Games and Uwe Rosenberg. This came out, I want to say, maybe like close to 10 years ago, and I remember playing it at least once in the pre-BGB days, liking it and kind of just having it in the back of my head that I wanted to get it again, but never feeling like compelled to go out and buy it.
It was also really, really hard to get for a long time. It was also
was it really? Okay,
yeah,
so then maybe, because I remember seeing the big box version, which came out, I think, fairly recently on shelves prior to lockdown happening, and still not just making the go for it. So when I saw it show up in the BGB math trade, I was psyched to be like, okay, this is, I'll put in a bunch of chips to try to get this. So I ended up, I was
traded chips.
No, yes, exactly.
South African chips.
So someone ends up with some rare South African chips, and now
are those
I have
French fries or potato chips?
Potato chips, definitely, because
they're
we would
Betong chips. Is it Betong? What's it called?
Biltong chips.
Biltong chips.
We're getting a lot of food mixed up here.
No, actually, I guess in South Africa those would be French fries. Yeah, we would call chips and crisps. Actually, it gets weird in South Africa because we call them both chips. But anyway.
Wait, but what did you trade to get this game?
I don't know. I traded money for it, maybe. I just mean I put a lot of things on offer.
I will find out.
You went all in to get it, is what you're saying.
I went slightly undervalued to try get it. Is what I wanted to make sure I got it, basically.
You put all the chips on the table.
Exactly.
He pushed all his chips, which is say crisps.
And then they crunched. Got it. Okay, keep going.
So I'm glad I ended up with the big box version of Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, and I was pleased to discover that it held up. I remember thinking I liked it, and I enjoy regular Agricola, and I think that this version is quite good. It's been a while since I played either regular Agricola, So I was not surprised, but I was sort of pleased by some of the differences between it and A Feast for Odin, which I've played a lot more recently and regularly. Like, A Feast for Odin is a much more open worker placement game in that you have much less competition on specific spaces, whereas in Agricola, and especially in Agricola All Creatures Big and Small, like there's just not that many options and they're quite competitive. Unlike A Feast for Odin, if you don't grab resources from a worker placement spot, they accumulate in Agricola, and the same thing's over here. So what could happen is if someone doesn't grab the pile of wood one turn, it becomes a twice as big pile of wood on the subsequent turn, and then that's just that much more tempting.
And then if there's another turn, what does that pile of wood become?
It becomes a 3 times as big pile of wood.
Wow.
Math checks out.
It's the but it's like that sort of growing escalation of value in the spots is the thing that's really appealing about this, because you only have 3 workers each. So even if you're placing, every round you're placing them out, there are definitely going to be some spots that are accumulating, and there will very frequently be spots that accumulate twice in a row before someone grabs them. And then that just gets so close to I have to grab this now, because if I don't, they're going to grab it and get this, insane value. There's also like competition for like grabbing the first player marker, which is like, okay, I'm going to take that now so that I make sure I get the big pile next turn. The other thing I like about this versus Agricola, besides from it just being a much easier to teach, cleaner and simpler game, is that the one thing I do find overwhelming about base Agricola is just the sheer number of cards if you're playing the advanced game. Like, having to know how the buildings interact and being able to use those extremely well is what Agricola becomes at high level play. That's greatly reduced in All Creatures Big and Small. You have 4 basic buildings that are in every game, and then you just add 4 more of this giant stack of advanced buildings. So, there's a lot of variety in what those buildings might be from game to game, but it's not that much of a cognitive load to like learn them and to learn them together with your partner when you're playing them.
I think it's really important to note that if you go to get a used copy of this game, that the non-big box version has no variety in it at all. There is no difference game to game, if
Interesting.
I'm correct.
I didn't realize that these were all product of the expansions.
And so when you call it a big box, it was annoying to people on release that it needed an expansion to even inject the variety into it, which I think was a mistake. So something to be wary about is that people always say you must have an expansion for this in order to unlock the full potential. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about is just how it relates to Nusfjord, a newer Uwe Rosenberg game than Agricola. Neelan's got 20-year-old references here. In Nusfjord, it does a similar thing where most of the buildings that you have are available from the very beginning of the game. And so a lot of what you're doing is looking at that and then saying, okay, for this game, the number 1 strategy is going to be cows, or the number 1 strategy, here's a synergy, and then figuring out what your opponent might do and kind of bouncing back and forth off of that. I actually forgot that All Creatures Big and Small, there's only 8 buildings total. Is that what you said?
I think they recommend increasing up to 12 if you wanted to get more crazy, but yeah.
And that's nice. That's a nice amount. Nusfjord goes a little bit over the deep end, where at the beginning of the game, you're like, let's read the 17 buildings that are available and then figure out what they all do together. But still, both fantastic games, and I think worthy of being discussed in 2020.
Totally. And I think, like, to Kellen's earlier point then, something I wasn't aware of, like, if you can seek out the big box version of Agricola, that's what I played, and based on what Kellen's saying, that's what I would recommend. So that's Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, Big Box Edition by Z-Man Games. Mark, what have you been playing?
So listener Nate and his friend Dan and Mike Murphy from the Brothers Murph invited me to play a game of Paladins of the West Kingdom. Is that the kingdom? Because I keep getting all these kingdoms confused, but it is Paladins of the West Kingdom.
What color box did it have?
It was online, Kellen, so...
Oh, no, you don't even know.
Did not have a box in front of me. But it is Paladins of the West Kingdom. I've consulted BGG, and they are confirming that. Paladins of the West Kingdom is a worker placement engine building game. It follows the motif of Shem Phillips's other games, so the art is very similar and really well done. Even the pieces and the components look similar. So what you're doing in Paladins of the West Kingdom is you are placing workers in various places. There are different types of workers. So this is a worker placement where you have some workers that are wild, but give you a corruption. So there's a corruption/debt aspect to this game. But you're placing workers in a couple different spots. You're trying to move up tracks. You're getting points from a bunch of different places with an eye to score the most victory points at the end of the game. I've only played a couple of Shem Phillips's Kingdom games. I've played Architects of the West Kingdom, Paladins of the West Kingdom, and Raiders of the North Sea. This is probably my favorite of the three. It's really well done. After we finished playing, I made a comment that it felt to me sort of like Feldian in that it was like sort of like you're scoring points in a lot of different places. And Nate, to his credit, said that he didn't think it was a point salad. And in retrospect, I don't think it is. But what happens in Paladins of the West Kingdom is that it's more like an engine builder, but you're building a bunch of different engines. Mm-hmm. Okay. The crux of the game are these three basically stats your character has. It's like faith, strength, and influence. And you're moving up the track and gaining in those abilities allow you to do other things more efficiently. But there are a number of different ways to score, and there's an aspect where you're bringing townspeople into your sort of your town. There's an aspect where you're fighting off invaders. There's an aspect where you're building fortresses. And depending on the way that the cards come out, there's sort of like a shared central board where there's 7 rounds in the game. Every round, a new card will come out to this central board, and it will tell you where end game scoring is going to be derived from at the end of the game. So you have a situation where every game is going to sort of be different in terms of what scores bonus points and how many points they score, but also sort of Agricola, like some of the spots in this shared board become shared worker placement spaces. And I didn't mention this, but everybody's playing off of their own board. So all the worker placement spots that you're using, except for these shared ones, are on your board. You're never fighting over spots. So it's more of an efficiency worker placement game rather than a fighting over spot worker placement game, which sort of brings me to the experience of playing it online. I liked it a lot, and I think it had to do with my mindset for the kind of game I was looking forward to playing online. And it's also a game I think I would probably like less in person because it is so multiplayer solitaire. It's not the most multiplayer solitaire of them all, but it's strongly multiplayer solitaire. But for me, playing a worker placement game like this, I didn't want to play a game online where I'd have to like scroll over to other people's boards. I was sort of happy to just sort of like mostly be doing my own thing. There's like 3 or 4 spots that eventually you have to fight over on the shared board, but even that wasn't very much fighting over them. There are cards, there are attackers that you're fighting off, and there's sort of like you're fighting over that. You're fighting over like being the first person to attack these people or being the first person to claim this townsperson. So there are other places where you need to, strike first, which you get a lot in worker placement games. But if you're looking for something that's sort of multiplayer solitaire that you definitely get the experience of an engine being built. At the beginning of the game, you don't feel like you can do very much. At the end of the game, you're cranking out points, you're being more efficient.
I think that's an interesting concept, Mark, and I agree with you, where in a game in person where you pay attention to what everyone is doing, it's a little bit more like games that work online are the ones where you can get up and leave and then just come back and it's your turn, because you're not as like moving around in Tabletop Simulator to like look at what's happening on someone's board. You only are sort of casually looking at it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. And, and it might be a function of me not being super, super comfortable with Tabletopia. I mean, I feel comfortable enough, but I don't feel like I'm comfortable to the point where I, going to one board to another, and coming back to mine is something that I really want to be spending a lot of time doing, like scrolling around this shared screen and figure out what everybody's position is. I mean, it certainly did help me. And toward the end of the game, I was doing a little bit of that. And that's something that you would want to do if you want to be successful in it. But yeah, I would say if you're looking for a game that is primarily sort of multiplayer solitaire where you can sort of take it easy and focus on your own board, again, not to the total exclusion of being cognizant of what other people are doing, but, mainly doing your own thing. There's a lot of different things to do in this game. There's a lot of like different ways to score. There's a lot of like different characters who come out. So it feels like a game where every experience of it would be different. There's a lot of variability or a lot of like things to see and things to consider. When a card comes out that lends itself to end game scoring, you figure out, hey, do I want to jump in this now? And then how does that affect where I want my engine to go? And again, a very satisfying building up of the engine, which is something that I generally want in an engine building game where you feel like at the end you're really, really powerful and cranking stuff out. So that is Paladins of the West Kingdom. Again, big thanks to Nate, Dan, and Mike of the Brothers Murph for letting me jump in on the game, and for Mike for teaching it.
Christina, what have you been playing?
This week, we all played The Boss, which is a bluffing area control light card game. And essentially, there are different types of cards represented by different cities, and each one has money that can be won. And then there are also some bad outcomes as well. So you're bidding on these cards to try and win money. Money is victory points at the end. Whoever has the most money wins. But there are some potential landmines, and you have some information. Every single player has a hand of cards, so you'll know a random array of information about the different cards. And the key to this is that every single time you take a turn, you have to reveal one of your cards. So you're constantly revealing more information about what is actually available to be gained from each city.
It's a very interesting game because you don't always have to play cubes or workers to control these auctions, but you always must reveal information about what a card isn't. So the ratio on New York might be, $0, $1, $2, $3, $4, and you know it's one of those, but the information about New York is distributed among the players. And so you might not want to reveal that you have the 4 New York card because that means New York will not score 4 during that round. So you want to strategically figure out when it's most advantageous to reveal that information. You might bid small there in order for people to think, oh, he has a low card in his hand, meaning New York might pay out big, hoping that one of your opponents will overcommit. So it's a little bit about feinting and looking and say, oh, Nealon has 2 Philadelphia cards. Like, what does Nealon know about Philadelphia? And trying to sort of position off of that. I don't know. I did not play very successfully. I had the least amount of points of all of these people. And I've been to most of these places, and I definitely have been to New York.
Yeah.
It was very challenging, and it was physically painful every time you had to reveal information because nothing felt like the right thing to reveal. But it definitely was fun pretending like you knew some really, really good or really, really bad information about something. And I think that was the best part of the game, was just like we were kind of teasing each other constantly, like, Mark, there's no 3s in Memphis. After Mark had already bidded all of his money, that was the best part for me, was just the lying and...
Yeah. The psychological side where you are trying to figure out, Nealon has 2 Cincinnati cards, and what does that mean that he hasn't bid, or what does it mean that he's only bid 1? Like, trying to figure out. It's especially fun when you have one bit of information and somebody else has information, and it's sort of like that it's a duel between the two of you.
Yeah, I don't know if we said that, but you can see the cities that other people have because the back of the card, you'll see the colors. So you'll know of the 4 New York cards, Kellen has 2 and I have 1. So we know how the information is distributed, which is really interesting.
Right. And it's also interesting that some cities, the worst outcome may be $1 or $0, whereas in other cities, the worst outcome is lose a worker for the rest of the game. Yeah. So the stakes become higher in those types of cities.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that like curse court flavor of, information growing over the time and finding the right time to strike with a small bid or hold back for a big bid, but with the stakes being a lot higher because if you go in on this place, you might get really, really hurt on it in the subsequent round. So there's like a mismatch of the value of each of the spaces that curse court doesn't necessarily have, which I thought was neat. I thought that was
another rule that we have not mentioned is that when you bid on a space, you can't match what someone else has already bid, so you must bid more. Meaning if I bid 2 on a space, for anyone to even get in there, it costs 3. And so that incentivizes bidding early. And then also looking at it, everyone doesn't have very much workers to bid with. So you could make a bid that no one could beat. But you do have 3 special baby workers that are called occasionals.
But we call them baby
gangsters. Then once you use them in a bid, they're out for the game. And so those are 3 per game. And so you have to know when to use those. I think there's just enough cleverness going on in this game that makes it worth looking at and checking out. I recommended this. I thought Mark would definitely get a kick out of it, and Mark definitely kicked our asses in it, which was to be suspected.
Expected.
What did I say?
Suspected?
Did I?
I mean, yeah, you did.
We can't know for sure.
Yes.
We'll never know.
Because we've passed that.
We never look back.
Right.
And that's The Boss, and it looks like it's only $10 right now.
Not to be confused with I'm the Boss, which is a fantastic game.
It is a superior game, but The Boss is also good. So,
and I'm the Boss is about sort of corporate America, and The Boss is about sort of syndicated crime, so that's dark.
But are they the same thing?
Oh, he does it again.
And that's going to be the topic of our bonus episode this month for patrons only, exclusive.
You're not going to want to miss this one.
Let's get into our feature topic. We're going to be looking at all of the different board game awards that have announced nominees and winners and giving you our opinions on them. So let's cast our minds back to the Golden Geek Awards, where we were nominated for one of the best podcasts.
Yep.
First and foremost.
Therefore, best awards.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that nomination? Pretty accurate, I would say.
I think they nailed it with the nomination,
Yeah.
but they screwed it up with the
Messes
win.
up with a win.
This is really awkward.
Why is it awkward?
I don't
Because
know.
Sophia
Because I
disagrees.
didn't vote for you guys.
What?
I'm just kidding.
You're a big 5 games for Doomsday fan?
Yeah, definitely. No, I voted.
Okay, let's start us off with the best board game app. So the nominees were Through the Ages, the expansion New Leaders and Wonders, Raiders of the North Sea, or Twice as Clever.
Oh, I know who Christina's voting.
Twice as
Yeah.
Clever was nominated?
Yes.
Yep. Did you vote for it? Where were you when they needed you?
It did not
It
win,
didn't
I'm
win?
sorry to tell you.
It lost by 1 vote, actually.
It did
by
lose to
one
Through the
vote.
Ages.
An expansion for an app that was already released. Just new
I will
cards.
say this, that the Through the Ages expansion is pretty excellent. Like, I think it's exactly what you'd want from an expansion, that you can play the game entirely with the new cards and it transforms into a completely different game.
I mean, it transforms. It's just literally a
Yeah.
different set of cards.
But you'd be surprised because the cards are everything. It's like a game like Twilight Struggle. Like, knowing the cards that are in there is the game. And when you completely change all of them out, it's a completely different game.
Okay, I take complete umbrage with your words here. A, it's a completely different game. It's ridiculous.
Okay, look, it's not 100% completely different game
It's
because
the same
it still has
game
the same rules.
with
No, but
different
they, strategically, it becomes something completely different. Like, the rules that you apply to the game strategically
And then
change.
to win Best App, they uploaded an Excel doc that had changed text for the
exactly.
card, and they've now
New
won
card
Best
art
App.
and new rules. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
That's how that works.
Great job, guys.
Let's move on to the best thematic game.
Wait, that's all we're saying? We're not going to defend Twice as Clever?
No, it's over.
It lost
Yeah.
because you didn't vote for it.
I don't know if that's true. Woohoo! All right. Twice as Clever should have won. Go on.
Okay,
They had to
best
program
thematic
something,
games.
so that's good.
So the best thematic game, the nominees were The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, Star Wars, Outer Rim, and Dune. What wins?
Did
Best
Dune
IP?
win?
I'm sure it did not.
Lord of the Rings
Dune
won,
did
huh?
win.
Oh, Dune won.
did
Really?
winner.
Wow.
Yeah. Very pleasingly. That game is an excellent thematic game.
Yeah.
Maybe the losers who like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings split the vote, and then the smart people.
Journeys to Middle Earth is the Mansions of Madness
Exactly. Yeah, it's the...
re-theme.
Exactly.
Oh. Oh, that's right.
Maybe Kellen would like that
No.
one.
Maybe he would. We love Dune, so we want to just say thank you, everyone, for voting for Dune. You were
Rewarding all the hard work.
on behalf of Dune. We'd like to
Accept the award.
thank all of our believers out there who believed in us.
It is funny in retrospect when Kellen was saying that Dune may not make it to this year as a movie, and I think they were banking on Dune making it this year as a movie to
Oh, right.
tie with the release of the board game. But I mean, obviously it's been doing incredibly well for them, so I'm sure they're not that bothered. Let's move on to the best strategy game. The nominees were Paladins of the West Kingdom, Maracaibo, and Wingspan.
Well,
Yeah, anyone want to take a guess?
Was it
I have a
Wingspan?
feeling.
I think you will discover that this is going to become a theme for a lot of these awards.
Best theme of the BGG Awards was that Wingspan wins all the awards.
My quick question is, has anyone played Maracaibo? Because that seems to be the
I'm
one that...
super
Okay.
excited to play that.
I have it, and it was a early quarantine game that I just now have no hope of playing until afterwards.
Yeah.
Your talk about Paladins got me excited for that, but yeah, Maracaibo is something I've been itching to play.
Do you think maybe next year there'll be a category called pandemic game, like games that we didn't get to
Oh, yeah.
play that were delivered during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the title of it. Yeah.
Okay, best solo game, Marvel Champions, the card game, Wingspan, and Twice as Clever.
Twice as Clever?
Unfortunately not.
Oh,
If
my
you hear the
God.
word
Yes,
Wingspan, it is
exactly.
Wingspan.
If
Oh,
Wingspan is in the
brother.
category, it won, I think, is a general rule.
You know, it's interesting because that didn't even win one of our top 9 bird games of 2020.
Right, exactly.
I didn't hear very many people talk about Marvel Champions as a solo game. So
I also
interesting
didn't...
that it got.
Am I crazy that am I misremembering that it wasn't
I
loved?
think it was pretty loved.
Okay.
I mean, it was also mid-late in the year last year
Right.
compared to like Wingspan. There was some dislike for the distribution model and locking away some of the cool characters and expansion packs, etc. But it feels like it's fizzled a little bit since then, though, in a way that like Wingspan is still spreading its wings.
Nice.
As long as we're all agreed that Twice as Clever was robbed, we will move on to Best Party Game.
Time's up.
Yeah, this one's already in the bag. Like this
Yeah, we
last
figured
week's
that one out.
episode. Moving on. No, the nominees were Letter Jam, Men at Work, and Wavelength.
Wavelength.
With Wavelength winning.
And yet it's the 11th, or no, was it 15th?
Was it
15th best party
15th?
game.
Best party game of all time.
Yeah, of all time. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You're right.
Men at Work is just sad because one person's a loser, and it's Neelan.
Yes, it was usually me. Most innovative game, Wingspan. Moving on. No, the other runner-ups were The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9, and Wavelength,
I like-
which I actually think are two really, really good choices for this
Yeah, I
category.
agree.
Yeah. I'm excited to play The Crew. I'm really excited to play The Crew.
This is actually maybe the one that made me the most mad because I don't see Wingspan as a good fit for the innovative category really at all.
I agree.
You mean you're excited to play it again, Mark?
Yeah.
Well, you just made it sound like you'd never played it before.
No, I believe me, I cherish those moments we played.
I thought it was one of your moments where your memory was failing you,
Oh, no.
and you just completely
plenty of
forgot
those
about our
places.
entire Dice Tower West.
I would never forget about that.
Okay, good.
It's just, Neelan, we have to define what the word innovative means and then enforce it. But in this case, we let Wingspan win.
You say innovative in a European way, Kellen.
I was mirroring Neelan to try to get some allegiance on his side.
Oh,
That's one of my debate
how would
tactics.
how would the Americans pronounce
Innovative.
I would say
Innovative.
Innovative.
I would pronounce the O, innovative. Well, not
Innovative.
that much, but innovative.
Innovative is like a little bit of a flourish, you know?
Yeah.
I've heard Kellen use it that way.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
to.
little flourish.
Kellen,
That's how I talk.
how do you say innovation?
Innovativation.
Perfect.
Yep.
Let's move on to Best Cooperative Game. The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, Marvel Champions, the card game, and The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9.
The Crew.
The Crew
Oh,
wins?
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty pleasing. I think we all liked The Crew a fair
There's
bit.
some funky timing about when these games get released because I think this game was getting really hot during the voting for
Right.
this. And it also wasn't really in America in 2019 either. And so everyone was really playing it in Feb of 2020. But that's fine.
Best Card Game. Marvel Champions, the card game. The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9, the card game. Or Wingspan, the board game. The winner is Wingspan.
Oh, boy.
Best Artwork Presentation. Oh, this is a good one. Parks, Wingspan, or Tapestry.
Wingspan.
Yeah.
Wingspan wins it. Parks is pretty beautiful. I've still has no one played that yet, right?
I've played
Oh,
Parks.
do you like it, Mark?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Was
It's fine.
it beautiful?
Yeah, sure.
Did it have birds on it?
Parks. I mean, is that look? Parks is going to be beautiful. Like everybody's going to say it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know.
I remember
fine.
liking the look of the art.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
We were less impressed. Okay. Best two-player game. Blitzkrieg, World War II in 20 minutes. Undaunted Normandy, or Watergate. And the winner was Watergate, which...
Yeah. I don't know. Watergate's fine. I wonder what the legs of that game is going to be like. I
Oh,
don't know.
interesting.
I think repeated plays, it might get stale.
Uh-huh.
You know, I thought it was fine. It didn't strike me as like blowing my mind, but it's the only one of the three I played.
I was just going to ask, none of the other two is anything you know enough to know. Yeah.
I'm very much interested in both, though. Both of those
Right.
I've heard really good things about.
Yeah, I've heard good stuff about Undaunted, and there's a new one that's just came out or is coming out soon.
Coming out soon, I think.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain to think of other two-player games that might have been neglected. But
That's true.
Wingspan.
That's the,
yeah, Wingspan, exactly.
this is the big one.
Finally.
I can hardly wait.
Board game of the year.
Oof. What could it be? What could it be?
Could it be Paladins of the West
Okay,
Kingdom?
maybe.
Could it be Tapestry?
All right. Well, it definitely shouldn't be that. but
Or
perhaps.
is it definitely Wingspan?
It is Wingspan. Although, still, to repeat what Kellen said earlier, didn't even make our top 9 bird games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The thing that's interesting to me about this is Tapestry as a nominee, which strikes me as a game that people largely turned on after a while.
Yeah.
but so well known, right? And I think I think
that's
the
true.
big thing, you can see now the reason we did not cover these awards when they were first announced, because it's just a mass popularity vote by all the members of Board Game Geek, which is fine as long as you know what it is.
Totally.
It's just not interesting in a vacuum, I think. And so we wanted to couple it with a couple of other award shows that have some different nominees.
Yeah, and of the 3 awards, this is the one that is voted on by basically the public en masse.
Let's, on that note, move into the next award show. We only have the nominees for this. No winners have been announced yet, but these are the Spiel des Jahres Awards.
Which is on the other end of the voting spectrum, whereas Board Game Geek, anybody can vote. In the Spiel, it is a very select jury.
Next year, Mark's on the jury.
That's right.
The one caveat to this I will say is, as is usual with the Spiel des Jahres, we haven't played a lot of these games because they are on a year of release in Germany. But let's just talk about the nominees for Children's Game of the Year, or the Kinderspiel, which is Photofish, Speedy Roll, and Wir sind die Roboter, which I don't think we've played any of those.
Based on the name, I would vote for Speedy Roll.
The last
Not
one.
Wir sind die Roboter sounds fantastic to me.
Yep.
Actually, I looked at that pretty briefly, and it kind of looks goofy in a fun way. Like you're betting on how far a thing is going to slide down a ramp.
Oh, so you want to teach kids gambling?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the winner of these awards was Speedy Roll, which we had more to say.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Called
the
it.
big upset there, from what I understand.
I'm surprised the Plumber game wasn't nominated, Kellen.
Oh, yeah.
Plumber game.
I bought this game called
Plumber Pants.
Plumber Crack, and it was
Wait,
like
what?
$7 on Amazon. And it's this plumber who's bending over, and you have plastic, and you put
It's his tools. You have
his tools, and it's kind of like
You hook 'em on
gotta
his
you hook
pants.
him on his pants. And I bought the game so that I could surprise you guys, and this was right before quarantine.
Oh, no.
And you fill the thing up with water, and so then when the plumber, when his pants fall too low,
So
all of
the
a sudden,
the last person to put the tool that just finally pulls his pants all the way down, you can see his whole butt, and then water squirts everywhere.
yeah.
That's amazing.
And I kept it in my closet for like 6 months, and I'm like, I am not keeping this. It's just a big piece of plastic filled with water, and it's this plumber's butt, and I don't want it anymore. So I threw it away in the garbage.
We were
Oh,
really
wow.
excited to surprise you
called?
guys. Thought it was Plumber Pants, but you just said Plumber Crack, but that doesn't sound right.
I don't know if it's even on BGG,
I
man.
don't think they would name a kid's game.
Where did you get this or find out about
Oh,
this?
no, it's funny. It's on the recommended list on the Kinderspiel.
Is it
It's
really?
Das Plummer Deal Crack. Yeah. Das Plummer Deal Crack.
No, it's not.
It's a German name. No, it is. It's right there. I'm seeing it.
Uh,
It's not there, Christina.
Okay.
I don't know if you're actually looking.
Well, it's not English. So it was.
the game is called Plumber Pants. Here you guys. Here's a little video.
I mean, that's pretty great so
Oh, it's
far.
not as graphic as I was imagining.
You can't see his butt.
Yeah, his butt's right there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There you go. Surprise.
You got me. Okay, let's talk about the Kennerspiel Award. These are sort of the connoisseur games, I guess, is maybe the best way to describe them.
Yeah. Hobbyist.
Hobbyists games, gamers games. The nominees are The Crew, The King's Dilemma, or Cartographers.
Ooh,
interesting group.
that is
It
an
is an
interesting
interesting group.
group.
I'm still eager to play King's Dilemma. We still doing that? at some
Same.
Have
point?
we not played that?
No, we've not played that yet. That is my biggest, man, I wish we could play this, but quarantine makes it hard. Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah.
the number of people that are like saying this is game of the year for last year and they're speaking so highly
I
of
think
it.
it was my number one most anticipated for Gen Con.
I think that's true. I remember us being quite eager to like stop by the booth and grab it.
I have the demo mission because there was a Gen Con demo of it. So we have that. So it's possible that we could film something of us doing that at some point, and that would be a non-spoiler introduction because it's a narrative-driven game. So that is kind of on my to-do list of things to do, but that list is very, very long.
You mean after quarantine?
I just mean that I'm a busy man. A lot of
Okay.
obligations, duties.
I would pick The Crew over Cartographers.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What is the winner of these two?
I thought you were big on Cartographers, Kellen.
Yeah. I like
Okay.
the crew.
But not as big.
This category is like absurd that we're comparing these three games, but that's fine if we have to, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that as much as I like Cartographers, I would agree that The Crew is a stronger pick of the two.
I haven't played Cartographers yet.
Wait,
I think-
not, Christina?
Yeah.
Cartographers is just derivative, right? It's like good but derivative. And I mean, so is The Crew in a way, but The Crew has a little bit more of a spark to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cartographers is the one where you're drawing your castle, but then you hand your castle to other players and they draw monsters on it, and it's really frustrating.
Okay, let's move into Game of the Year for the Spiel des Jahres. The nominees are Pictures, Nova Luna, and My City.
No idea about picture.
Yeah, me either. My City, I will say, is something I was quite highly anticipating. This is a legacy game by Rainer Knizia, and it's a city/civ-ish building game, and it seems neat. Like,
Doctor of
just the idea of
Architecture.
him doing a legacy game is intriguing.
Can you get a doctorate in architecture?
In Germany,
I'm sure you can.
I think Nova Luna would be a deserved pick.
Nova Luna would be a fantastic pick.
Yeah. That was my biggest surprise of Dice Tower West for sure.
Yeah, and certainly one of my favorite games of last year, that's for sure.
Pictures is supposed to be a game like, I think it's like sort of like Dixit, where you're trying to get people.
Or Detective Club, right?
Or it's superior, yeah.
Heaven no. No, it's like a game where you're trying to get people to pick a abstract art card, but the way you have them pick it is by using these like tools, like there's like string and there's like blocks, and you're manipulating like pieces to get people to pick a certain thing. So it seems like it'll be interesting. At least the components will be sort of an interesting aspect to it. It also feels gimmicky in that way.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't played it, so no idea.
Interesting.
I think I did that
Nova Luna.
activity in first grade a couple times.
What's that?
Pictures
Yeah.
with the felt and the little feelers, and you make a little ant out of them.
Yeah,
The little feelers.
Yeah, the fuzzy bendy pipies.
Oh
cleaner.
yeah,
Oh,
pipe
yeah.
cleaners. I didn't know they were called feelers.
Yeah,
Cool.
like an ant.
All right.
Let's get into our final and most recent awards, the Dice Tower Awards were just announced.
You have to be a Dice Tower contributor to contribute to these awards. So that means that there's one tank on this award panel. One Fandango tank.
So we're gonna blame Mike Delicious for everything we don't like.
Yes,
It's 100%.
absolutely we are.
Mark, you have the list for the Dice Tower Awards. Take it away.
Mike Delicio sent me the list in a sealed envelope, and I'm opening them here, even though the winners have been announced. But here we go. Most innovative, or as Kellen would say,
Innovative.
Innovation at the
game nominees were, we've got Detective City of Angels, we've got Mystery House, Adventures in a Box, never heard of it. We've got QE, we've got the aforementioned Slide Quest, and we've got U-Boat, or U-Boot. I think it's U-Boat in German or something. Anyway, which of those is the most innovative? The winner is Detective City of Angels. I have only played QE of these.
Detective Christina, Kellen, and I have at least played the intro scenario for.
Right. And how'd you like that? Did you feel innovated upon?
I thought that there are ideas, and from what I understand about the way the main scenarios work in that, I do think there are some really interesting ideas. I have not gone back to it. Unfortunately, another one that just was pre-pandemic, but I'm itching to play more of this. I think more so than Kellen and Christina are.
1,000,000%.
I cannot remember it, to be honest.
Okay. Very memorable.
It was like a boring mix of time stories and Watson and Holmes.
Yeah, it's like that. Well, I wouldn't say it was a boring mix, but it's that type of Watson Holmes style mystery where there is a bespoke murder that you are moving around the map trying to.
I usually like those, but they all just feel the same to me. I don't think that, and again, I can't remember, but they never stand out as like, oh, this one was better than the other.
Yeah.
But what we will say is more innovative than Wingspan. So congratulations, Mike Delicious.
Good job, Mike Delicious.
So,
We're proud of you.
so I'm pretty sure none of us have played Mystery House and none of us have played the U-Boat. But you guys, I think, have all played Detective, QE, and Slide Quest. What would you pick of those three as most
QE.
innovative?
Probably
Kellen.
Slide Quest. I mean, I know that's an absurd thing, but like the box is the game, and it's one of those puzzles where people are physically lifting the game and moving the ball around. I mean, I would say like QE isn't that innovative, even
Yeah, I
though
would
like
agree with
like it's interesting, it's unique, it's novel, but we got to define these words, man.
Nealon, would you pick?
It's hard because I think that what was interesting about Detective was enough for me to back it. But yeah, I agree with Kellen. Like Slide Quest, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a cool thing. Why has no one done that already? And that's
All right, so Kellen,
looked cool,
Nealon,
but it was
and
kinda
Christina
boring.
are all saying
No, I didn't say Slide
Well,
Quest.
No, don't.
you're all saying that Mike got it wrong. So
yeah.
moving
yeah.
on. And I have not said that.
True.
The nominees for best theming are Horrified, Lord of the Rings: Journeys to Middle Earth, Star Wars: Outer Rim, Watergate, and Wingspan. Best theming.
Dune was not
Where's
even
Dune?
nominated.
Dune is not on this
How
list.
dare they?
Theming is interesting, right? Because it's not thematic game. It's
Sure.
like, are we talking about the best game that was thematic, or are we talking about the best theming of a game, meaning the game
Yeah.
itself could not be good? What do you think?
I think the latter. I think quality has to play some part of it, but it's probably not so big. So, what do you think has the best theme? Horrified with the Universal monsters, Lord of the Rings with Lord of the Rings, Star Wars Outer Rim with Star Wars and the Outer Rim, Watergate with political intrigue, or Wingspan with birds.
I find it so
I
hard.
feel like it would be Lord of the Rings, but I have not played any of these, so
it's
except
such a
for-
Which
except for
theme
Wings.
speaks to you?
yeah, it's a weird question because it's like it's hard to give the vote to Star Wars or Lord of the Rings without knowing like how well they used that theme. But
Yeah,
that
that's
is that even what matters? I don't know.
I like in Wingspan when you kidnap the birds and put them in your aviary. So I pick Wingspan.
Well, the winner was Horrified.
Okay, does that track with you, Mark?
Mike
Yeah.
Delicious got it right.
Got it right. I have said he got it right, and you all have said he's got one wrong. So
Are we keeping score
My
for
friend.
Mike Delicious?
that's right. Best strategy game: City of Big Shoulders, Coloma, Maracaibo, Paladins of the West Kingdom, Watergate. I will say that I've played 3 of these. I have played City, Paladins, and Watergate. I'm very eager to play Maracaibo. I don't know very much about Coloma. Of the 3 I've played, I would say by far City of Big Shoulders would be my choice.
City jumps out as me as the most interesting one on the list for sure. Again, of the ones
There's
I've
no way
played.
the Dice Tower, though, voted for City of the Big Shoulders to win this category. My guess is that they voted for Maracaibo, and I haven't played most of the games. Like, it's Mr. Fister, and so they voted for it.
Yeah, I could see Maracaibo winning this.
And it was
I guess
Maracaibo.
Paladins could have been another guest, though, too.
Here's another one. Best reprints. We've got Atlantis Rising, Dune, Pax Pamir, Pret-a-Porter, and Unmatched, which I think is a reprint of Star Wars Epic Duels.
Oh,
which is
that is interesting.
So
And I think for me, it's
I
Dune.
think the weird thing with Dune is how you qualify a reprint, right? Because they just purchased the rights to fan art, so I already had a copy of the new version of Dune that literally looked identical. They changed like 4
Right.
things. Whereas, the games that had like a full upgrade, what did you say? Pret-a-Porter is in there? I'll bet you that one.
Yep.
Pret-a-Porter is a nice looking game.
I would have picked PAX from this, but the winner was Pret-a-Porter, which I think is pretty much a mediocre
Oh, shame.
game,
But it's about dresses.
but it is about dresses. Okay, party games. Letter Jam, Medium, Slide Quest. Is that a party game? Team 3 Green, which I've played actually.
Yeah.
And Wavelength.
Team 3 Green is pretty good. I actually played it as well at Gen Con. It's neat. What's interesting to me is Letter Jam being in here because I discounted Letter Jam from our list last year because I don't think it's really a party game.
Oh, really? I would definitely qualify Letter Jam as a party game. And from the limited information I have about Slide Quest, I would say it's not based on.
Oh, I would
it's a
say
max 4-player,
they're
right?
both definitely party games.
Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Letter Jam is pretty deliberate and like quiet. I don't know.
That's
But you
Word
need a
games-
lot of don't you need a lot of people for Letter Jam?
Word games
really?
need their own category.
Take that, Mike. Really sticking it to
And-
Mike.
Got to
Yeah.
be Wavelength.
Yeah, it's got to be Wavelength.
I mean, yeah.
I liked some Medium talk there. Medium's been sort of
Yeah,
underrepresented,
that's
I
true.
think.
Medium's good.
But it is Wavelength. So Mike got it right.
Mike got it right.
Best family game. So you're sitting around the table with a family, and you've got Horrified, you've got Parks, you've got Point Salad, you've got Tiny Towns, and you've got Wingspan.
I say Tiny Towns. I think
Yeah, I
Tiny
would.
Towns
Well,
is-
that's the only one I've played, but I would also say Tiny Towns.
I'm going to guess Horrified one.
The winner was Point Salad.
Okay.
Having salad with the family. All right, moving on. Best artwork in a game. What's the prettiest game? Is it Atlantis Rising? Is it Parks? Is it Pret-a-Porter? Is it Unmatched? Or is it Wingspan? Unmatched seems like a weird one in there, but I guess it's not bad. What would you pick? I think for artwork, I might go Wingspan.
I was just going to say that it is, I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. And I think that the way that they did like that almost textbook style illustration on
Yeah,
all the cards
really
is
like that.
really, really, really pretty.
Kellen, what do you have?
Park.
Yeah, because you looked at the list, you cheater.
No,
It
I
is
didn't
Parks.
look at the list. What are you talking about?
Moving on. Kellen's a cheater.
What?
Finally, round it out with Game of the Year. Here it is, the big one. This is what we've all been waiting for. Clank Legacy, Acquisitions Incorporated, Detective, City of Angels, Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North, Horrified, Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle Earth, Maracaibo, Paladins of the West Kingdom, Tainted Grail, Watergate, or Wingspan. What is your game of the year? Of those, wow, that's a tough call. Because honestly, of the game of the year nominees, I've played Horrified, Paladins, Watergate, and Wingspan. And of those 4, I might go for... Jeez Louise. I might go Paladins. I don't know. I might go Paladins of those 4.
I refrain from voting. But Wingspan 100% won.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what those I would pick.
Nealon would pick Detective, City of
Yes,
Angels, but
that's
he
my
would
pick.
lose, as the winner was Wingspan. So Wingspan is the current holder of the Dice Tower Game of the Year, the Spiel Game of the Year, and the BGG Game of the Year.
Wow.
We call that
Wow.
we call that the board game trifecta.
Treble.
The Triple Crown. The bird has 3 crowns.
And that's going to do it for our special award season episode. Congrats to all the winners. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Board Game Barrage podcast. Thank you, as always, to Heart Society for our intro music, What's on Your Mind, Kid? And thank all of you for being here on this very special day.
That sounds so condescending.
God bless America.
We'll see you guys in 1 year
say,
when all we're
shall
talking about
we see
No, the words.
by the
Not at all.
dawn's morning
Dylan.
light
I'm hitting stop.
for the ways of Middle Earth.
What?
Goodbye.
I'm hot. I'm ready. I want you to save me from myself, baby.
Yeah. It's an average Nizia game, which is good. It's better than
Nizia?
nothing. Reiner
That's how we say
Knizia.
You
He
say
said
you
both
call him
ways.
Nizia?
Yeah, he calls
Yeah.
it Nizia.
The only true and living doctor.
Nizia.
That sounds like you're good friends with him, and
Yeah.
like you're, hey Nizia, let's go hang out on the
Well, I
weekend.
call him
you
Niz,
know?
actually, but
Yeah.
Dr. Niz?
Dr. Niz.
Dr. Niz.
Hey Dr. Niz. What's
So
the latest on the phytoplankton?
what?
Like that?
Why does Dr. Niz know about phytoplankton?
She doesn't
Everything.
even know what she's saying right
Yes,
now.
I
Cutting edge.
do. What?
Oh, because
Yeah,
he's a whale
Niz is
expert.
cutting edge. Yeah, he knows a lot about the sea life, Kellen.
What?
Whale riders.
Oh,
Wait,
that's his game. I see. Marine biology.
Uh-huh. That's what he's a doctor of, weirdly enough.
You heard it here first.
Nealon, this is the best hosting duties I have ever heard in my life.
Oh, thank
it's
you
just
very much.
clean from beginning to end. No interruptions. No goofing off.
Exactly.
What do you-
No
Although
goofs.
you did use the word bunch of, and whenever you say bunch of, it was what?
Me too.
That's
almost-
so funny. Because I guess
Every
that-
time,
yeah.
especially when Nealon says it, every time Nealon says a bunch of anything, I can't help it.
yeah.
I just hear
What?
I now am gonna,
jump
like,
in and say
see-
we've learned about a bunch of awards, and we're going to talk about a bunch of games.
The best thing is now I'm going to see that in knowing that it's going to like set you guys off and just wait for it. Wait for you guys to break.
I could cry on command.
they're nodding, but it looks like they.
Oh.
I can-
they
How
Laugh
much
on
do I
command.
have to pay you to cry?
okay, yeah.
right now?
Can you guys see him on camera?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I can cry on command, or I could in high school.
All right.
Drama.
I used
Ready? We'll
There
give
was
you.
a big range that Augustus Gloop needed.
Oh gosh. We'll give you 5 seconds to prepare. Ready?
No. I would
right.
need some prep time.
How much prep time?
I mean, not tonight.
We're having too much fun tonight.
Yeah, we're having a party. We sang "Bye Felicia" to everybody. I can't just cry. I think I could.
I think you could too. Actually, I have a feeling you probably could.
I think I could too, but I'm a crier, so
That counts. Less
it's easier for me.
the daily occurrence.
Okay, not daily. Well, actually, if we watch West Wing every day, then I definitely cry every day because there's no way not to. So what were we talking about? The doctor?
Here again?